So yesterday we saw how to read the data from various file formats. So in today's session we'll discuss how to write SAS datasets into various file formats. So writing SAS datasets into various file formats. The reverse of yesterday's session. Yesterday we saw how to read the SAS dataset, read the external files into SAS environment. Now we'll see how to write SAS datasets into various file formats. So we can do this same in the same. Yesterday we saw proc import and proc export, right? Data step. Now we'll see proc export and data step. How to do it using uh, proc export. Let's take any example. Let's take you can take payroll master. Let's take payroll master. Let's export this SAS dataset. So what is the syntax for importing a file? Proc import. What all the keywords we use? Data file, data file. To connect to a file. Out, we specify SAS destination, DBMS, where you specify the DBMS type, and replace option. If it is already existing, you have to replace. It is not. And get names equals to yes, data row equals to 2. We used to write all those things, right? Now, in case of proc export, simple. What you're trying to export, you have to export dataset, right? You have to export dataset, and when it is going out, it converts into a file, right? So simple, what you have to do is, the syntax is very simple. Instead of import, write export. Just interchange this out and data, because in SAS it's a data set. So you have to write it data, and when it is going out, it is converting into a file, so it's out file. Okay, so out file, when it is going out, it is converting into a file. So data, which data set you wanted to export, and DBMS, in which format you wanted to export. Now data set, what is the data set that which we wanted to export? It's SAS user dot payroll master. So this is the file which I want to export, right? Now where do you want to export? Let me create a folder called export, and I'll export into this. I'll export into this folder. So with what name you wanted to export? Let's say let's export this file into, let's export this SAS dataset into a delimited file. So delimited .txt. Okay. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to export my SAS dataset SAS user.payroll master into a text file, into a delimited file. So DBMS would be DLM. Okay. Now if I just, that's it. If I execute this, let me execute and show you. See here. C user's home desktop export delimited.txt file was successfully created. So we exported. Okay. So a 148 records created in so and so path from SAS user.payroll master. Now let's go to that location. Here. So by default, if you don't specify anything, if you don't specify anything in the sense, if you don't specify the delimiter, the data values will be separated with space. If you don't specify any delimiter, the data values will be separated with space. Let's say you wanted to separate the data values with some delimiter. So what you'll do, you have to mention the delimiter option. So just you need to write the delimiter option. Delimiter equals to, let's say you wanted to separate with yet, for example. Just delimiter equals to the separator you need to specify. Delimiter separator. Here the data values are separated with X symbol. Whatever delimiter you specify, and based on that delimiter, the data values will be separated. So exporting SAS datasets into delimited files. Delimited files. Now while exporting, you can also use your keep, drop, rename options. Let's say your keep equals to, let's say you want EMP gender and salary. So you can filter the records. You can filter the records, or sorry, you can filter the variables or records as well. Selected underscore variables and separate with space, yet space. I give this. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. 1 second. So you can use either keep option, or you can use whatever you have seen earlier, like you can use where option here. Where will work like as an option as well, not only like statement. It will work like option as well. Go to that some 100,000. Only cost greater than 100,000. So if you want to customize, uh, I mean how you wanted to see, or if you want to change the formats of any dates or anything, then you have to use data step. In proc step, you can, in using proc export, you can simply export the data. That's it. If you want to modify, or if you want to do something, if you want to do some calculations, then you have to use data step. You have to use data step. Okay, so how to use data step to export into a text file? So for that you have to use data followed by. So while exporting a SAS data set, we don't create any SAS dataset, right? While exporting a SAS dataset, we don't create any dataset. So we use a keyword called underscore null underscore in dataset. It means should not create any dataset. Should not create any dataset. So because we are exporting SAS dataset. So while exporting SAS dataset, we will not create any SAS dataset, right? So in data we need to specify underscore null underscore keyword. Set what is the data set you wanted to export? SAS user dot payroll master, right? Payroll master. Now here you can, while reading the data, if you remember yesterday's syntax, we use in file statement, in file. So while writing, we use file statement, file statement. Where do you want to write? Where do you want to write? Okay. Um, so what's the name? Let's say DLM dot txt. And here in the put statement, in the input statement, we declare the variable, right? In the put statement, you specify the variable names of which variables you wanted to write into this text file. Let's say I use EMP ID gender and salary, for example. Run. Now what this program does is it will read the data from SAS user.payrollmaster and it will write into this text file dlm.txt, and it doesn't create any SAS dataset. Okay, and in the put statement, whatever variable names you mention, these variables will be written into this text file. It will read from this SAS user.payrollmaster and it will be written into this text file. DLM, I have only those three variables information. Now, if you want to do any calculations like if statements or creating multiple variables, you can do all those things in a data step, right? So here I can, if salary greater than some $100,000, then flag it as out file, and file does the same thing. Yes, in case of proc export we use out file, in case of data step we use file. Both does the same thing. So that we use in proc, and this file we use it in data step. If salary greater than $100,000, then flag it as some high income group people, something high income group, else flag equal to low income group. So you can create flags, and here you have to specify that variable, whatever the new variable created. Okay, and here I'll write DLM1, and I'll write delimiter. So I can write here delimiter, DLMITER, delimiter equals to DLM equals to what is the delimiter? Let's say I wanted to separate with comma. No, fine. Let's go with DLM1. See here, if you look at high income group, so salary value is greater than $100,000. So high income group. So you can use all the concepts. Whatever you want. Whatever we have learned earlier, if else or whatever, you can use all those concepts here. Okay. Not only that, you can use if first dot, last dot concepts, and you can create a new variable or filter the records, and finally you can export into a particular file. Okay, so using proc export, you can send your SAS datasets into various file formats, as well as using data step as well. Okay, if you want to send it in, if you want to separate with tab space, if you want to separate the data while exporting into tab space, so what you have to do, you have to change this DLM option. You need to write not 9 followed by X. So let me change here to tab. Yes, it exported. Let's go there and check. See, they're separated with tab space, right? They're separated with tab space. Now let's see how to export into CSV files. CSV files. Syntax would be same. Only here you have to write CSV, right? And DBMS would be CSV. Or else if you put here DLM, then comma is fine. But let's say you don't want to give delimiter, so you can use CSV. Here you have to, the extension should be CSV, and here DBMS type should be CSV. go to log. Yes. CSV file was successfully created. Here it's a CSV file. So you will have only the salary details where it is greater than $100,000. So it exported into CSV file, right? If you want to do the same thing using data step, simply you need to write here CSV, comma separated, okay, and here since I mean here you have to specify, I mean you have to set what is for CSV files, what is the delimiter, comma, right? So I have to give comma. When I use .csv data step as an extension, you have to mention the DLM option because we don't have any DBMS to specify here. So you have to use DLM option. DLM equals to comma because comma CSV stands for comma separated value files. So it means there is a comma between the cells. So the delimiter will be comma. So now let me execute this sentence. Total log. Yes, 148 records were written to this file. Now you can go and check comma separated. We have the data, right? Now let's see how to export into Excel. Excel. Exporting SAS datasets into Excel files. So here you need to specify, let's say you wanted to create an Excel file XLS. Here it is XLS. That's it. And you can give sheet name if you want. And by default, if you don't give any sheet name, it will take sheet 1. Or else you can give sheet name, sheet equals to, let's say, salary underscore some $10,000. Let's say salary underscore $100,000. Sheet equals sheet name. So it is exporting this data set and it is applying some filter and we are exporting into this file, right? Let me execute this. So it exported, file was successfully created. Let's go there and check. See, you have .xlx file. You have the data. Okay. But while exporting, let's say date of birth, you don't want in this format. You want some other format. If you want some other, or let's say you want to change the format for salary or whatever. In that case, proc export will not work. Proc export will simply read the data and it will export it. You cannot have control over formats. But using data step, yes, you will have control over formats. Let's say, for example, the same thing. So here it's XLS, right? There is no delimiter. Now, can you tell me how to export? If I execute this, will it export? Will it export? Go to log. See users. Let's go to salary. So how it exported? It it exported all your data into a single into a single cell, right? Each observation is entered into a single cell. Why? Here, yesterday while importing, which concept we have used? See, in the same, if you want to import using a data set, let me show you. It means say some Excel. Here, let me read this file. So in file, input, employee ID, gender. See, I cannot. I mean, it's in a single cell, right? The data is in a single cell. Let me do one thing. Let's create a new file. So which concept we used yesterday? To we have used a concept called DDE, right? We have used a concept called DDE, sample.xls. Let me create a file. I'll create a single record.
What do we have used?
Sorry, clipboard. Yeah. So let me try to import this. That will log. Yeah. By default, see, if you don't use for Excel any clipboard, it won't read the data properly. You have to use, so in case of Excel, either it is export or import, you have to use clipboard. That's what I'm trying to explain here. If clipboard is not used, then the data won't be read properly. So that's the reason they use, while exporting, you can use CSV. You can use CSV. But if you want to use XLS, then what you have to do is the same example. Let's take this example. Uh, Salary.xl, right? Let me do select. Let me just salary one. Now open any Excel. If you want to send into existing file, yes you can. Let me open it. So you can select the data. I mean, select the records. It's up to you. I mean, if you don't know how many records, then you can select till the end of the file. Okay, you can select till the end of the file. Total copy. Just control. Okay. How many? You can select it. Since I have only four records. I mean, sorry, four variables. I am selecting four columns. Control shift down. Okay. Now, what I want to do is, I'll say Control C. The clipboard is formed, right? The clipboard is formed. Now export this data. Now execute this data. Now go to this Excel. I'm sorry. I have to write here clipboard and DD. Okay. It's still a clipboard is there. Let me click run. Make it exported. Okay. It exported into this whatever data you selected. Let's say you wanted to export. If you select, let me remove this. Let me get an sheet. Let's say I selected only these four columns. Let's say I selected only somewhere, I mean, nine columns, nine rows, right? Let me try to export. Let me try to form a clipboard only for these 9 records. I mean 9 rows. Now try to execute this. Let's see what will happen. Only it will read the first 9 records. Since you don't know, let's say you don't know how many records are there in that, so you can simply highlight how many variables you want. Anyway, you'll be knowing the variables, right? Because you'll write variables in this put statement. So you can select those number of columns in this fashion. You can select in this fashion. Form a clipboard. That's it. Okay. Even though you have a lot of I mean there are in a single sheet you can store 1 million records, but 148 is the last record. Okay. Even though you formed a clipboard, that's fine. You can later on remove that clipboard and save this file. So this is how you save your Excel files. So if you use proc export, simply it will what it does is it will simply export the data. It will read the input data set. It will export. If you want to change the format, yes, you can use format. You can use format statement, all those things, and you can change if you like to change any format. You can customize that. Okay. Let, let me know if you have any questions. Any questions? So from the interview standpoint, they will ask you the syntaxes for importing and exporting. They will ask you the syntaxes for exporting and for importing and exporting. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? No. So if there are no questions, then I'll start the next topic. Okay. So what all the topics we covered so far? So we saw how to create SAS datasets, right? We saw how to create SAS datasets. So in this, while creating a new SAS datasets, we learned, a lot of dataset options, right? Dataset options like keep, drop, rename, first ops. We saw various methods, and we saw where statement to filter the data, and we saw operators, right? Operators, and after that we learned informats and formats, and after that we learned functions, right? Character related functions, numeric related functions, and date time functions. Okay. And conditional statements. Okay, so conditional statements, if else, if else, do block, right? So we saw conditional statements. We saw after that first dot variable and last dot variable, and combining SAS datasets, appending, concatenating, merging, right? So anything else we discussed? We saw how to Now we have reading and writing SAS data. Reading and writing data, right? Reading and writing data using import, export, and data step, right? Import, export procedures and data step. Anything else? Okay, conversion functions. Anyway, that is a part of this conversion functions. So this is all. I mean, these are all. I mean, most of the concepts, whatever we discussed, it is related to data step only, except proc import and proc export. And also here I discussed proc contents and sort. Right? Before explaining combining SAS datasets, I discussed how to browse the metadata or the descriptor portion of a SAS dataset, and also I discussed how to sort your data because we used in merging sort, right? So we discussed proc sort, right? Anything else? So, now let's see loops concepts. Loops. Okay, loops. So you might be aware. You might be having a lot of people have. Idea on various programming languages, right? You know, C, C++, um, Java. A few people, know all those programming languages. So loops is similar to what you have learned there. Loops is similar to what you have learned there, but there we call it as for loop. Here in SAS we call it as do loop. Okay, in C you have for loop, the same for loop. In SAS we call it as do loop. So basically do loops are used to generate data. Generate the data. If you want to generate the data, we use do loops. What do you mean by generate the data? Generate the data. What do you mean by that? Let's say, for example, you want to print, you want to create a variable called x, and I wanted to store some 10 values into x. Okay, I want to store some 10 values into x. Or let's say you wanted to create a variable called year, as well as you wanted to create a variable called month. Okay, and in year I need 2016 12 months data, like I want in this way. Let's say you wanted to create two new variables, year and month. You wanted to create two new variables, year and month. In year you need to have, or 2016, in month you need to have Jan, Feb, March, something like this. Or you wanted to, let's say you have uh, April month sale data. Let's say you have some sale data or sales data, you have date as well as the sale amount. So starting from first, let's take 1st April 2016, 2nd April 2016. Okay, now you have 30 days information. Okay, you have 30 days information. Let's say amount, let me take some random amount. Let's say 1,000 to 2,000. So I have the sales amount on various dates. Let me remove this couple of dates from this file. Okay, let's say you have 25 records in this. You have total, you have 24 records. You have 24 records in the month of April, let's say all these transactions were happened, or all these orders, or all whatever these transactions, whatever records you are seeing, these were happened in the month of April month, and this is a sale amount. Let's say you're working for a retail store. At the end of the day, you need to calculate what is the sale amount, or what is the sales that you made on a particular day. So you have this sale data. You have this sale data. Let's say this is a data set which you have. Okay. Now what I want is, let's say here I have, say, date 1st April 2016, 2nd April 2016. So we'll have 30 days in April. So I took till 30th April. Now what I want is, if a sale value is available from this table, if a sale value is available, sale amount is available, then I need to populate that value. If sale amount is not available, what I need to say, I need to put it as dot or something. Means I need to know if the sale amount is missing, then I need to know on which date the sale amount is missing. For example, if I try to analyze my data in terms of some charts, okay, so how is my trend? I wanted to check on day-to-day basis. Is there any spike in my sales? I wanted to check. Okay, I wanted to check. Let's say on 20th April, I'll put 5,000. Yeah, there is a spike on 20th April. Now what I want to do is, I want to do analysis on the 30 days. 30 days, I wanted to see my sales figures. But if you look at here, on one particular, means on some dates, the data is not available, right? How you'll come to know if here there is no data on. So on which dates you don't have 6, so you'll not find any data on 6. Let me do one thing. Okay, on 6th April, okay, see, I have added data labels. See, on, if you look at here, if you look at 6th April, there is no data point available here. There is no data point available on 6th April. See here, it's missing. On 6th April, it's missing, right? So, and 25th April, it's missing. On 22nd April, it's missing, right? So now what I see, in some of the months, the data is missing here. In some of the months, the data is missing. But what I want is, if the data is not available, I wanted to populate it as 0. If the data is missing, I want it 0. So we look up value. I wanted to search this value in this table. Okay. I wanted to search that value in this table. So I want the second column. So now, if you look at here, you will be able to identify easily in which months the data is missing. In which month the data is missing. So in these on these 5 months, 6 months, 6 days. On these 6 days, the data is missing, right? So now so how these loops will help you? How these loops help you? Why I have explained this concept? Let's say you have this data available and you wanted to populate. I mean, you wanted to create a data set something in this similar fashion, and you wanted to make sure if the data on any particular day, if the data is not available, I wanted to populate it as 0 or some number. You can replace with any number, not only 0. You can replace with any number. Okay, so this is what I wanted to create. This is what I wanted to create. Okay, or let's say for example, you let's say you're working for some HP. You're working for HP, and starting from uh, 1st Jan 1st Jan 2014, you wanted to do some analysis on your employee count. You wanted to know whether the employee count is fluctuating or is it steady, or you wanted to know that. Okay? Starting from uh, 2014 till date, starting from 2014 till 2016. Just March, April, May. So something like, I mean, you wanted to generate this data, and you wanted to merge the other file. You wanted to merge the other file in which you have in the other file we have some data missing. And if the data is missing, I wanted to write a code manually, not manually, I have to write a code in SAS saying that if the data is missing, please replace it from 0 or whatever. Okay, so to generate such data, we can use loops. Not only that, let's say you have invested 10,000 rupees in 2011. Now what I want is in my output, I want 2011, I want 2011, 2012 till date. So you have invested 10,000, right? So let's say it's a simple, every year you're getting some 10% interest, right? So it will be 10,000. So it will be 1,000 is, let's say, 10% interest rate on 10,000 is 1,000 rupees. So total amount you get at the end of the day would be 11,000. So if it is simple interest, you calculate in this way, right? So let's say at the end of every year you're taking your interest back. So it will be in this way. Now if it is a compound interest, so this will be 11,000. Let's say you're not at the end of the year you're not collecting your interest. So for the next year, 7,000 would be the principal, right? This into 10 divided by 100, 700, right?
Muted.
Hello. Yeah, Venu. Are you able to hear?
What? Just now. Just now.
Okay. Raghav?
Yes, yes, Ramesh.
Uh,
Able to hear.
I think there was some network issue. So now now if the question is something like, let's say I have given you some 10,000 rupees, and if I ask you what will be the amount, or what would be the amount that you receive at the end of 6th year, assuming 10% interest rate, and it's a compound interest. Okay, so you can run the loops and you can get the final output. You can get this output. Just I want this figure. What would I get at the end of 6th year or 5th year if I deposit some 10,000 rupees in the bank, and assuming 10% interest rate and 10% compound annually, whatever. So these all can be done using, these all can be whatever scenarios I have explained, whatever scenario this graph thing. If you want to identify the missing values as well, if you can. So so what you do is, for all these scenarios, we can use loops. Loops. Basically, loops are used to generate the data. It generates the data. It generates the data, and we can use that data based on the need. Okay. So let's see some basic examples, and let's go back. Let's go to some. All those examples. Okay. Let's see all those scenarios. How loops will help you. How loops will help you in real time. So let's print first 10 natural numbers. So this is a very basic example to start with in loops. So I want to print first 10 numbers. I want to print first 10 numbers. So in SAS, loops, coming to loops, we use it in a data step. We use it in a data step. Inside a data step, we write the do statement, and this do block needs to end with end statement. Always this do statement, this needs to end with end statement. Do statement, end statement. Okay, do statement, end statement. It starts with do and it ends with end statement. So inside this do statement, you can write all your SAS statements, whatever SAS statements you want. Whatever SAS statements you want, you can write all your SAS statements. You can write all your SAS statement inside this do loop. Let's say, for example, I'll take a small example and I'll make you to understand the complex thing. Now, if you are familiar with for loop, then it's simple. So we are initializing a variable in the do statement. I'm writing I equals to 1 to 10 by 1. So what do you mean by 1? I equals to 1 to 10 by 1. What do you mean by I equals to 1 to 10 by 1? So here we are initializing a variable called I. Here I is a variable. This I variable is called loop variable, or you can call it as index variable. Index variable. Okay. So we want to start, or we want to initiate our loop, or we wanted to start our loop running from first value, means I value equals to 1, means this loop needs to run, I value will run from 1 to 10, till which value? 10 to 10. So 1 to 10. Now I value initializes with 1 and it will run till 10, and in each iteration it will increase the I value by 1. Okay. So how it executes, how this code will execute. Now I equals to 1 to 10 by 1. The meaning of this one is it will break into couple of, let me break into couple of things, then you'll understand. Let me break that for loop. So I equals to 1. It means it will initialize first. The first step is SAS will initialize I value to 1. And after that, it will create a condition internal. This is how it works internally. So I value needs to run. This loop needs to run till which value? Till what is the maximum value? We are saying that to run 1 to 10, right? So I value we wanted to run till 10. So the condition would be I less than or equals to 10. and the other by 1. I'm saying here by 1. So every time you need to increase the I value by 1 and you need to override the I value. Okay. Now let's see how this works. So I equals to 1, right? So the first step would be it will initialize, and the second step it will check this condition. It will check this condition. What is the I value when it checks this condition? Is 1. So is 1 less than or equals to 10? It will check. Yes, it is true. Second step is true. When second step is true, inside the do block, whatever SAS statements you have, inside the do block, do loop, inside the do loop, whatever SAS statements you have, those SAS statements will be executed. Those SAS statements will be executed. Once it executes the SAS statements inside this do loop, it will not execute the end statement. It will go back to the third step. What is the third step? We have to increment the value. What is the I value? After executing the SAS statements, we have to increment the I value. So I value, it has 1, right? So we'll replace that 1. So I value 1 plus 1, it will be 2. I value will be 2 now. In the third step, what we do is we increment. After executing the slash statement, we increment the I value. After incrementing the I value, we'll again go back to this condition and we will check it. So I value is 2 in the second iteration. So when I value is 2, so again is the condition true or not, we will check. If it is true, again we'll go inside this do loop and we'll execute whatever slash statements we have. Whatever slash statements we have. Okay. So when till which value it will execute, let's say I value is, again it will come here, it will increment. Let's say I value is 10. I value is 10. I value is 10. So will it execute? If I value is 10, yes, it will execute. Why? Because this condition is true. I mean, if I value is 10, this condition is execute. When I say I value, after adding, let's say in the ninth iteration, I value is 9, 9 plus 1 equals to 10. So 10 less than or equals to 10, the condition is true and it will execute. Let's say it's I value is 10. Let's say I value is 10. I replaced here 10. 10 plus 1 is what? 11. Now it will check the condition. 11 less than or equals to 10. Is it true? It's false, right? 11 is not less than or equals to 10. So it will come out of this loop. It will execute this end statement. It will come out of this loop. When it is the last statement, it is false. When the condition is false, then the loop will terminate. Loop will run till the condition is true. If the loop, when loop will fail, if the condition is false. If the condition is false, it will fail. Now let's see this example. I equals to 1. Okay, the first step, and after that it checks this condition I less than or equals to 10. So it will go inside the loop. Do we have any SAS statement? No. Do we have any SAS statement? No, right? It doesn't do anything. Next, what will happen? It will increment, and again it will check for the condition. So I value will be 2. It will come, so 2 less than or equals to 10. So the condition is true. It will come inside the loop. Do we have anything here? No, right? We don't have anything, right? So it will not do anything. So if I execute this, can anyone tell me what will be the value? Any guess? People who have not attended the sessions, earlier sessions. So when the condition will fail, when I value is 10 or 11?
10.
11, not 10. If it is 10, 10 less than or equals to 10, it's true, right? So I value, when I value is 11, it fails, right? So if I don't specify any statements inside this do loop, then where condition is failing, at the time of condition is failing, so what all the variables that got created in this data set, that will be shown in the this data set. Let me open first 10. So I value will be 11. Why it failed when I value is 11. The loop terminated when I value is 11. So it will show us that value. It will show the value. It should show the value when loop got terminated. Okay. If you don't, here one important point you need to remember, if you don't specify anything inside the do loop, if you don't specify any SAS statements or any expressions inside the do loop, then in the output what you get, this is one of the base SAS certification question. Okay, so they'll give you here they'll not give any statement, so they'll ask you what will be the output. Okay, So what you have to do is you have to use output statement. In loops, you have to use output statement, output statement, output statement. So let's see this. So when I equals to 1, so first it will initialize the loop variable I equals to 1 and it will check for the condition I less than or equals to 10. 1 less than or equals to 10. Yes, it's true. So it will come inside the loop. What is the value? What is the statement that we have? Output. Output in the sense, what does it mean? Whatever variables created so far, please write it into output data set. When it come across with output statement, it means whatever variables created so far, please write it into output data set. So we have created only one variable called I, right? So when in the first iteration I value is 1. So if I execute this, what will be the output now? It will condition will run, this loop will run 10 times. In the 11th iteration it fails, right? When it is failing, what it does, it will not execute this statement. When it fails, when I value is 11, this statement it doesn't execute, it will execute end statement, it will come out of the loop. But till I value is 10, this output statement will execute. So 10 times it will write that value, I value into dataset first 10, right? So when I value is 11, it will terminate, it will not print. Why it doesn't print? Because the condition is failing, so it will not execute this output statement. But if if I ignore this output statement, what will happen? When the condition is failing, at that time, what variables it created? Whatever variables it created in the data set, it will print it. For example, let me ask you a question. Now let's say here I have written j equals to 20 or j equals to okay, j equals to 20. Now there is no output statement. Can you tell me in the output what will be my output in this output data set? What values it will have and how many variables I'll have in this data set and what values those variables will have. If I execute this code, what will be the how many variables it creates in this data set? With how many variables this data set test is created? 2.
And
And what are those values? What are those values? Okay, when condition is failing, yeah, it will be 11 and 20. It will be 11 and 20 because when condition fails, see, we have not used any output statement, right? We have not used any output statement. So when condition failed, I value will have 11. When I is 11, condition fails. So I will be having 11. At that time, J will be having 20. So in this, you'll have 11 and 20. Okay. Now, if I ask you, let's take I into 2. I into 2. So now, if I execute, what will be the values?
22.
Sorry. Yeah.
J will be 22 and I will be 11.
See, this is the standard base SAS certification questions. It's not 22. When I value is 11, it failed. When it fails, it doesn't execute the statement.
Yeah, got it.
Right. So when I value is 11, it failed the condition, so it will not execute. So in the 10th iteration, it calculated 20. J value is 20, right? So these are, I mean, because from loops there will be one in base SAS certification exam, there will be one question in from the loop standpoint. They'll ask only these questions. I mean, all the same questions. What will be the output? So very important. If we use output statement, what will happen? Now let me use output statement. Now tell me the answer. I have used here output. Then how many records I'll have in my output? Total? How many records I'll
10.
have? 10. Because we are running the loop 10 times. So we'll have 10. So what will be the values in the last record? In the last record in this data set, what will be the values?
Last record will be I equal to 10 and j equal to 20.
Yes. Okay. So then I hope you understood the loops then. Okay, at least the this basic thing, right? Okay. How this will help you majority of times in real time is, let me give you a small example. You'll use inside this data, you'll be using a lot of procedures, a lot of macros. Here you'll write proc print data equals to SAS help dot class run. Okay. So let me write here 11 to 16. And if I ignore this by 1, I can, this is optional, by 1 is optional. If you ignore this, by default it will increment by 1. But if I say by 2, it means it has to increment this every value I value by 2. But if you ignore this, by default it's by 1. Now let's say for example, let me give you a small example how these loops will help you. Let's go to SAS help. Let's go to class. Now you have this data set, name, sex, age value, height values, weight values in class. Now I want to create I want to create a total, the total number of reports I wanted to create is, one is based on the number of distinct age values. So I have 11, I have 12, I have 13, I have 14, I have 15 as well as 16. Now I want a report for all 11 age category people. I want a separate report for all 12. I want a separate report for all 13 student age category people. I want a separate report. Okay, so how I want is, there should not be any manual intervention in the code. That's important. There should not be any manual intervention and you have to do it. Okay, so data sort by. So what I want is, I want separate reports. I want separate reports. So total how many reports it needs to create? It depends on the number of distinct age values. So it has to create separately all these reports. I want total loop needs to run and I have to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and I have to save all those in some PDF or some HTML format or some RTF format something. This is the requirement. So what I will do here, I cannot, let's say you have 100 different categories. You cannot split in this way what I have done manually, right? Okay, so loops will help you. So first of all, you need to identify from where you wanted to run loops till which value you wanted to run loops. So for that we use, I'll just show you if you want. For the timing, let me spend 1 minute on this, but you'll not understand at this point in time. Leave it if you don't understand. Distinct age into AG from SAS help dot class. Okay, select count of distinct age into AG1 of, okay, AG1 till AG, okay, here AG, Okay. Now actually there are total 6 values, right? And we have 6 distinct values. Now I have to run this loop from 11 to 16. 11 to 16. So that needs to come here automatically. That needs to come here automatically. Okay. Okay. What I'm trying to do here is, let me check whether I got it. So I have AG1, AG2, AG3, AG4, AG5, AG6 and age count. I have total 6. So I have my data ready. So I created a macro. This is not required. And the macro person report. Okay. So what I'm trying to this code, you will not understand, but just let me try to explain an overview. I'm trying to take the total number of distinct values from Sanskrit.class. Okay, and I'm creating each distinct value in a separate variable. So from age 1 to age 16 I have created, I mean it depends on this value will depend on it will, this value it is fetching from the previous value, the number of count. So here I'll have, so I'll store all those 11, 12, 13, whatever into various variables. See here I have created AG1 is 11, AG2 equals to 12, AG3 equals to 13, AG6 equals to 16. I don't know what is the last value. It will start from, I started with AG1 but I don't know the last value, how many distinct categories are there. So for that reason I have used first count of distinct, I have put it in a variable. Okay. So later on I'm running the loop from AG1, ampersand AG1. So in AG1, what is the value that we have? We just saw in AG1 you have 11. So it will start running the loop from 11 till which value? 16. So you have that in AG6. Okay. Now it will run when in the proc print I have used where statement. So now if I execute this, 1 second. Did I miss something? I equals to 1 to do 1 to this percent 10 percent 2. No, something is wrong. So do I equals to 1 to this. Okay. So print z equals to this. I value will have some a character operand was found in a value. The condition was percent 620. 1 second. Yes, 6 it is correct only. 8, 6. Age1 is 11. Sorry? Age1. I equal to. I equals to? Underscore probably age1 11 the total. Yeah, it will come automatically. That's the purpose. All purpose is to get that 11 automatically here. 11 to 6. 11 to, oh, is it? No, it is not 6. It is age 6. whatever you have in the value age 6. Oh, but here I have to specify age 15, where 1 second. One second. What happened here? I get 16. It's fine. Here I get 16. Here I get 16. So 11. Here I get 16. You go inside, and A is equals to, here I have to specify I value will be 11, right? I is 11. So I can simply write here ampersand I. This is not required. Simply you have to write here ampersand I, because when it runs, what will be the first value? 11. 11 will be assigned into I. So 11 will come here. So simply ampersand I dot. We got all those values. So it's separated. So 11 age group, you got it separately. 12 you got it separately. 13 you got the report separately. 14 you got separately. 15, 16. So this is the application, what we do, how these loops will help you in real time. Let's say you have, for example, you have a data something like Australia. You have a variable called country. You have a variable called country in which you have a lot of countries like Australia related data, Canada, US. So I want to create data sets based on the number of country codes available. Let's say for example you have 10 different country codes available. Let's say you have 10 different country data available in a data set. So it has to come automatically in this way. AU, CA, AU, some US, automatically all those data set needs to come. We should not give manually here. All those data sets should come automatically here, and you need to read the data. Let's say countries is the name of the data set, and automatically this code, it needs to run if condition. You have to check the condition. If condition, in this condition you need to check every time whether the record is equals to AU or CA or whatever. Based on that, we have to redirect that record into various data sets. So that you should not do manually, because you never know how many values you'll have in real time, right? So in this example I took the distinct count. I mean there are 6 distinct categories, and I have created 6 macro variables, and I'm running that in my loop. And I'm calling every time this loop runs. So initially here the value will be 16, here the value will be 16. So 11 to 16. The meaning is here 11 to 16. So the loop will run from 11 to 16. So when I value is 11, it will check for the condition 11 less than or equals to 16. Yes, it is true. It will go inside. So when it goes inside, what is the value of I? It is 11, right? So 11 will be placed here, and it will print. So not only this procedure, any concept, whatever I told you, right, in that do, inside the do, you have to use SAS statements. So the application knowledge and all we'll see later. Not only this, let's say let's say the task can be something like, on every Friday you have to create a summary report as well as a daily report. Let's say you wanted to, you're working on the sales department, and you wanted to create a report related to sales. So what you want is you wanted to, okay, this is a separate concept. I'm sorry. Similar to, it is also, this is a conditional statement concept. We are talking about loop, right? Okay, coming back to our example, if you look at the starting thing, what I said, loops are used to generate the data. We are generating the data only. what we are trying to do? We are trying to generate the data, right? So not only this, first 10 natural numbers we asked to print. We are generating the data, right? And also if you look at this example, this Excel, I mean not this one. I tell you how to assign the missing values. What we are trying to do? We are trying to generate the data and later on we are trying to compare, right? So these are, I mean, these are all application knowledges. We'll see all these things in later stage because this concept is related to macros. Whatever code I have explained, this is macros. This is macros. Okay, this is completely from macros. So we'll learn in macros extensively all these things. Okay, the application knowledge. But for the time being, you just need to understand how to use loops in a data step. How to use loops in a data step. Okay. Let's go to next example. See this example. I have a data set called sales. I have a data set called sales. Okay. In this sales data set, I have date and amount, and in some of the dates are missing. On some dates, the sale was not there. If you look at 4th April, there is no sale. If you look at 8th April, there was not sale. There was no sale. And 13th April, there was no sale. 17 and 18, there was no sale. Right. Now there in April 2016, uh, only 23 days, on 23 days, let's say our store is open and we made sale. Let's say on 23rd April only we opened our store, only 23 days, and there was a sales information. This is the sales information. Now what I want is, if the sale is not available, then I want all the days, 30 days information starting from 1st April to 30th April. If on any day if sale is not available, or if we have not made any sale, let's say for example, I need to populate it as 0. So how I want is, I just explained right here. This is what I want. If the sale is not available, then I want to populate it as 0. I want 0 in this way. How will you do it? Using any of these concepts till now, you have learned a lot of things, right? So can it be possible using the other topics, whatever we are seeing here, these topics, whatever we discussed, is it possible to generate the data? Is it possible using any of these options, any of these concepts? No, right? We cannot generate a data. I mean, when I say generate a data, I need a field. In which we have all the April month days values. Simple. You can run a loop for that. So how to run a loop? So I'm creating a data set called April underscore sales, and I'm starting the do loop. So I'm starting my variable. I'm initializing a variable called sale underscore date. So it will create a variable sale underscore date, and I want the dates from 1st April to 30th April. From 1st April to 30th April, I need to create. I need to store all these values in the sale underscore date variable, right? So how SAS stores dates internally? It will calculate the number of days from Jan 1st, 1960. It's a number, right? It's a number. So let's say the equivalent value of 1st April 2016 is from 11,030. Let's say, for example, I'm randomly giving some number. Let's say the equivalent date value, value for 1st April 2016 is 30. So to 30th April. So what will be the value? 11,060. Right? So now loop will run from 11,030 to 11,060. Okay? It will place here the number of days internally, and the loop will run from 11,030 to 11,060. The same concept. So it will check 11,030 is less than or equals to 11,060. If it is less, it will go inside the loop and it will execute. What is the value that we have inside the loop? I am formatting the sales date, because in my output I want to format the values. So I am using format statement and format. Now if I execute this, it creates a data set called April underscore sales, and in which you will have all the date values from 1st April to 30th April. Okay, and in another data set called sales, you have date and amount. Now what I want to merge to these two SAS datasets. I want to merge these two SAS datasets, and I wanted to create a status. If the sale is available, then I wanted to create a status is yes. If sale is not available, then status equals to no. So you know how to combine SAS datasets, right? So in order to combine SAS datasets, what is the prerequisite? You have to first sort your input datasets. You have to sort your input datasets. So here I am sorting my input datasets. And later on, in one dataset it is DT, in another dataset it is sale underscore DT. If you look at these outputs, in one dataset the date value is DT, in another dataset it is sale underscore DT. So you cannot merge if the variable names are different, right? So what you have to do? You have to rename. You have to rename, right? So I'm renaming here itself. Okay. And do you remember this concept in dataset option? Why do we use in dataset option? Why do we use in dataset option? In dataset option, in dataset option is used to create some temporary variables, right? We are creating some temporary variables called x and y, and this temporary x will represent April underscore sales, y represents dt. What values it assigns x and y internally? 1 and 0, right? It will assign 1 and 0. So based on what variable it will assign ones and zeros? Based on the common variable, right? Based on the common variable, right? So if that variable is if that variable value, common variable values, if that variable value is available in both the data sets, then x will be 1 and y equals to 1, right? Now see here in by statement I have used dt because we sorted based on dt, and I have renamed the sale dt to dt, so I will use dt. What does it mean if x? What does it mean? What does this mean? If x means if x equals to 1, so all the data from left table and matching data from right table. What does if x equals to 1 means? We discussed already all these things. So if x equals to 1, it will take all the data from left table and only matching data from right table, right? Okay, let me execute till here and show you. Let's say these statements are not there. Let me execute. So you'll get the data in this fashion. Dot. If the values are not available, you will get missing values. So it means on April 4th there was no sale. On 13th April there was no sale. On 17th, 18th there was no sale. So now what I want to do is I want to replace, if the values are dot, I wanted to replace with zeros. If the value is missing, I want to replace with 0. Okay, let me execute this. So wherever there is dot, it's 0. Now I wanted to create a flag saying that if amount is greater than 0, then I wanted to say it as yes, else no. Means there was no sale happened. See here, I am writing one more if statement, if else statement. If amount is greater than 0, then status equals to yes, else status equals to no. Okay. This is the application knowledge. How loops will help you? This is the application knowledge. One of the scenario. We created a variable, a date variable from 1st April to 30th April, and we try to merge and we try to do whatever variables we want. Whatever variables we wanted to create, we try to do that. Okay. And now if I can draw the graph on this variable. Now I can draw the graph on this and check. Or I can run frequency. Let's say I wanted to know the frequency. How many yes are there? How many no are there? What is the percentage of my yes and what is the percentage of no? Right? If I have this information, then only I will come to know that. Right? So we'll see a couple of other scenarios as well tomorrow. We will see other scenarios what we will be using regularly on day-to-day basis using loops. So we'll see all those scenarios tomorrow. Okay, let me stop here and see if there are any questions.